You know, as a comedian, uh, I felt like for the longest time that my job was to be on stage until I realized I needed to get better at my writing. So I didn't have to convince you that something was funny. My material had to be so good. I convinced myself that I'm a writer that comes up with comedy and I get the honor of performing it. Then I started thinking how bad I am at promoting because essentially you can't necessarily be successful in a vacuum, meaning nobody really knows how great you are. How great can you be? Which made me ask myself, what am I missing? My biggest failure was not promoting myself. And now I see myself as a promoter that writes comedy and gets the honor to perform it. And now my greatest weakness is my greatest strength. I'm a promoting machine. Absolutely everywhere I go, I introduce myself with all the charisma that I can possibly conjure inside me. And I'm passionate and I am on a new level, a new plateau, because psychologically, now that I say this thing sometimes that I'd like to refer to as a reverse pyramid, which pretty much thinks about the goal at top, but what you have to be at the bottom. But what would happen if you were to flip that around? What if you were to make the base of what you do, okay, the top of the pyramid, and it funnels down, again, like a reverse pyramid to what you really want? That, in a nutshell, has been the biggest key to my success, and it's taken me 12 years, essentially, to get that realization. And now that I have, every book that I've read, every lesson that I've learned, every thing that I have thought of to help get me to where I am today, psychologically, my mind is like armor at this point, and I am so pumped up, so motivated. I am selling tickets, doing shows. Why? Because I'm a promoter first. If you start to think in the way psychologically, okay, and turning things kind of inside out, okay, as far as this is who you are at the core, okay. Let's just say you're a fighter. Well, you have to promote your fights. But if you start to consider yourself as a promoter, okay, that trains fighting and that has the honor of displaying their art of fighting, then you'll become the best promoter. And from within, you already are the best fighter. But from the outside, everybody sees how great you are at promotions. Look at Conor McGregor. Part of his infamy is his ability to promote. If Conor McGregor did not promote the way that he did, being flamboyant and bombastic and yelling and screaming, nobody would care and nobody would pay attention. He would just be another fighter. And I have worked so hard to define myself, not just differently on stage. I told somebody the other day, I said, there is a verse in the Bible, and I'll look it up. I'll tell it to you. But there's this verse in the Bible that one day when I was at church, I heard it, and kind of like a poetry, a song lyric. You know how you might hear something one way, but you interpret another? Well, when I was at church one time, the pastor was talking about a specific Bible verse, and it said A, but with everything going on with me, I interpreted it as like slightly as like a B, meaning that the verse had to do with essentially, actually, I'll just tell it to you. It's Romans 12:2, okay? And it says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. When I heard that, I interpreted it as God speaking to me and telling me, with everything going on in my mind in that moment, with everything is essentially to be different. When I am on a stage now, if there's 100, 1,000, 5, 10 different comedians, hypothetically, right? Nothing relatively separates them from another. I do that. I did that. And I succeeded that by being different. When I heard that, I decided at that moment that I was going to transform all of my stand-up comedy into a way that is different. Perfect example. If you look at a photograph, okay, of a beautiful landscape, typically speaking, if you're going to take a picture with somebody in that photo, you don't want them to be in the center. You want them to be like off to the side a little bit and in the background. The negative space is what pulls you in. And there's a beautiful picture of a girl smiling or something, right? That negative space doesn't just balance out. In my opinion, it overpowers the picture and it brings the focal point of that girl with a pretty face, for example, right? And it just makes it altogether better photo compared to her standing in front of that beautiful landscape. My point is this: the timing, my rhythm, my presentation, my cadence, it's completely different. And I am so excited because on September the 25th, 2026, in Grand Prairie, Texas, I'm going to be headlining and I'm going to be doing 45 minutes. Now, I can do an hour and 15, but I'm going to be doing one-liners, just one-liners. Nobody does one-liners. I'm doing 10 minutes of them. One-liners are essentially 1 to 2 sentence jokes. So I got like 100 jokes I'm going to be doing in about 10 minutes, nonstop, rapid fire, machine gun laughter, one after another. And then after that, I'm doing magic. And each trick has a hilarious punchline and it incorporates crowd work. This is not something that can be compared. And that is what separates me. Then after that, I go into storytelling. Then after that, I go into observations. And every checkbox, I am misdirecting you, shaking you up, and I'm changing, not just, imagine you watching a great scene of a film and you changing the channel. I'm changing the scenery. I'm changing the negative space. And I think the only way that you could actually interpret what I'm saying fully is to be there. So I highly encourage you, when I'm at your local city, come check me out. So without digressing too much and trying to come around full swing, I'm motivated. I'm mentally strong, stronger than I've ever been. I'm armored up with diversity, with skill sets, and imagination above and beyond anything that you've ever seen. I'm not talking to myself up, okay? Making myself bigger than I am, okay? I'm just telling you a formula right now of success that I have learned to do by flipping the script and making my biggest weakness as far as stand-up comedy goes, right? Which is promoting to be my greatest strength. But what happens when you dig deeper, okay? When you dig deeper, my greatest strength inside is my writing. And what about when I get to display my writing? My biggest strength is my presentation. So now, inside and out, in all forms and in all shapes, I'm the best version ever. If you just start thinking, what are you the worst at? Once you start to be better and then making that your forefront, okay, I promise you right now, everything that you're already great at naturally is going to transition and you are going to be great at all things. So if you want to be excellent, if you want to be elite, whether it's being the best girlfriend, okay, being the best nutritionist, martial artist, archer, okay, shooter, soldier, do a reverse pyramid with your skill sets and with your life. And I'm telling you right now, I promise you, you are going to look like a 2.0 version of yourself that no one could even imagine. And if you do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, Romans 12:2, okay? If you transform yourself in a way to where others see you differently, and you're using that negative space, you're using that background, okay? However, what I'm saying applies to you, if you can find a way to make it apply, you can stand out. You can be different. And by being different, you will succeed. Turn your greatest weakness into your strengths. Make that middle ground. Keep it strong. And think you're already amazing at, okay? Keep being amazing. Funnel up into that moment of that presentation. And when you get there, shine. Hopefully I said something that you benefit from today. And if I did, that's great. Because as always, this is a mental note for myself, a checkbox, a chapter in my mind, and an emotional footprint, a psychological footprint of progressing every single day and always moving forward in your momentum, in my momentum. That being mentioned, I'm going to hop off now. Got some podcasts to work on, promoting to do, rehearsing, writing, and performing. I'm Benja Welldone. Check me out. Peace.